I told you so. As a leader, as a man, whether you have a girlfriend, whether you have a child, it is very easy to sit there and you hear someone saying something, right? And they're sitting there, it's like, or you watch someone, you told them over and over again, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And then they go do it. And then you look at them, and you're like, in your mind, before you even say that, I told you so. As soon as I see you next time, I'm going to let you know how right I was and how wrong you were. How many of us get trapped in that? How many of us allow that to fester into frustration before we even have the conversation? How many of us allow that mentality to either do one of two things? One, approach the situation from an egotistical, I'm going to prove you wrong and prove myself right, or you just give up on the person because you're like, they don't even care about my feedback anymore. Now, there's a certain extent of grace that you extend to people whenever it comes to, depending on what the situation is, what the hierarchy is, whether it's business, whether it's personal, when you can throw the towel in with them and when you keep on working on them. But let's look through some different ways that you can give feedback. Everybody's got notebooks, take notes. When we can give someone feedback, we have to look at this as an opportunity to build someone up. You are not looking at it as an opportunity to tear someone down. So many times in relationships, we have insecurities, right? And then as soon as we see an opportunity to basically level the playing field, we'll level the playing field. It's not building someone up. It's not looking for co-creative solutions. It's let's level the playing field so that I'm right, right? In business, it's the same thing. If you're a leader, if you got people underneath you, if you got a homeowner, right, that works with you, and they decided not to do what you told them to, it is very easy to fall into, I proved you wrong, right? That's not what feedback's about. Building someone up and help them learn from the lessons we have learned. If you are giving feedback, you can only give feedback based off of what your past experiences are. If you don't have a past experience with what the person's dealing with, it's very hard for you to give feedback. You can go find a story, you can go read a book, you can go watch a biography on someone and maybe give them feedback from something that you've learned from someone else that you've applied in your own life. So many times we want to give feedback and we want to tell someone to do something that we've never even experienced. Doesn't work. People know that too. 3 ways to give good feedback. Number 1, make sure the other person is ready to receive the feedback you're giving. This includes body language, situation, emotion, validity, place, and your experience. If your girlfriend is really mad and she just went on a tantrum, right? And in your mind, you got the, I told you so. If you spring on her whenever she's really mad about a situation and she's looking for emotional comfort, she's looking for you to listen, and you go into fix-it mode, what typically happens? What is the phrase that she typically says? We've all been in this situation. Did you even hear what I said? Like, what are they looking for? If you got someone that works underneath you, right? Let's say you're a team lead, okay? Or let's say you're in a leader position, whatever. We're all in a leadership position of some sort, right? And you got someone that is coming to you and they start going on a rant. Man, today sucked. Man, today, whatever happened. Homeowners weren't answering the door or this and this and this, right? They just start going on a rant. It is your responsibility when someone does that to recognize, okay, are they looking for feedback or are they just looking to be heard? And then if they're asking for feedback, you have to recognize, are they actually in the emotional state to receive the feedback? Do I have the experience to give them an educated amount of feedback on the situation? Is this the right place to do it? Are we in a public setting right now to where if I tell them to shut up, that it's going to do the job, right? Maybe they're really emotional. Like maybe they don't want to cry in public, but like that's a moment where they need to cry. That stuff does happen, right? It's your responsibility when giving feedback, if you're going to be a leader or you're giving it to anybody, for you to make sure the person is ready to receive it. So that's 1. 2, ask questions to determine what kind of feedback is being looked for. One of the best tools that I have learned, especially with my girlfriend, is whenever she starts talking, whenever she starts expressing, And she starts getting into it. Before we go any further, I just look at her and say, hey, are you looking for me to help solve a problem? Or are you just wanting me to listen right now? You looking for solutions? Or you just wanting to vent? That eliminates a lot of issues from the get-go.
Shoulder or
Do you want a shoulder or you want a solution? It's a good way of putting it. Whenever you have someone coming to you, if you have a homeowner coming to you and they start venting, I'm not saying you offer them your shoulder, but hey, like, ma'am, sir, like, are you looking for a solution right now? Or are you just needing to feel heard? Like, think through that, right? Whenever you're doing that. So many times we want to just jump in and give our 2 cents before asking questions. It's a big mistake we make. I'm really excited about the third one, so I can't even think about the second one that much. But so many times we want to give our 2 cents before even asking questions. By asking the correct questions, you will determine the kind of feedback that is being sought. And whenever you get that feedback, you got to be relatable. That's why lesson number 1, your experience. If you start asking someone questions, right, they're going to start telling you what they're actually looking for. That's where you have the opportunity to relate or empathize. There's empathy and there's sympathy. Empathy is basically you sit in the suck with the person. It's like, man, I really, really understand. I'm sorry. And then you tell them something encouraging. Sympathy is, man, that really sucks. Man, my life sucks right now too. You're bringing 2 negatives to the situation, right? You can't do that. It doesn't work. That's the difference between sympathy and empathy. There's a really good video by Brené Brown. She wrote a book called Daring Greatly. If you've never read it, read it. One of the best books I've ever read. If you don't want to read it, go watch her special on Netflix. It's really, really good. But she kind of has this illustration, this visual illustration between the two and what exactly people are looking for and how to determine when to sympathize and when to empathize. If it's a situation where someone's coming and they're venting to you or they're looking for solutions, like, empathy is the best way to start with it. But you have to ask questions to get to what exactly they're looking for. So that's number 2. This one's very important. Can anybody guess what the third one is? I'm really excited. This is one of my biggest pet peeves because I have screwed up in this area more than I care to admit. What is the worst form of communication that we have? Texting. Choose the right communication method to give feedback. Dude, I'm going to save you guys a ton of headaches in the future, okay? Whether it's you're dealing with baby mama stuff, baby mama drama, whether it's girlfriend stuff, whether it's employee, whether it's a kid, whether it's a dad. If someone fires off a text message at you and you get really, really, really ticked off, pick up the phone and call them. Do not text them. 2 reasons. Number 1, text leaves a trail of miscommunication and unsaid emotion. It is the worst form of trying to get your point across. Let someone else do it. If they want to do it all they want, pick up the phone and call them or respond to them. Hey, listen, I'd really like to get in person. I'd really like to talk through this. You can't read anything over text messages. There's no tonality. So the communication method to give feedback is imperable. Typically, text messages is the worst way to give feedback. Period. End of story. Okay? Or if you're looking for feedback, which we'll get into the next section, if you're going to text someone this big old rant about how terrible your life is and how horrible everything is, do not expect for them to actually help you. Because whenever someone sends that to me, I'm like, I sense like, okay, they're frustrated and I'm going to pick up the phone and call you. But if it's someone that's not like trained in that, typically they're going to like all of a sudden start freaking out, especially if it's not a weekend. Like, or say like, for instance, let's go to sales. You have personal canvasser, right? They're supposed to be there at a certain time and they don't show up. Okay. And you try calling them a couple times and then you fire off a text in the group sales thing, right? And you're like, why don't canvassers ever show up? Why don't canvassers ever show up? That might be all you said. You are leaving a wide open field of no context. We do that a lot, or we'll go into way too much detail, right? Who is guilty of this at some point in their life? How many times has this worked out for us? Maybe like once or twice if like you navigate it really well. My therapist told me one of the best things whenever it came to intercommunication with anyone. He was like, dude, if you don't have an opportunity to talk to him about it, keep it very simple. Very, very simple and don't go into details. Text is literally just exchange of information. That's all it should be. Hey, what time are you going to be here? 10 o'clock. should be very simple. My girlfriend actually taught me this because she does not text back. Like whenever we first started dating, I would shoot her off a text and I'd be like, hey, how's it going today? And I would, expect for her to respond. She'd be like, great. I'd be like, what? Like, what happened? She just chooses not to even communicate over text message. She's like, it takes a lot of energy. If you have something you want to talk to, like pick up the phone and call me. Taught me a very valuable lesson. I'll tell you what, best communication I've ever had in a relationship. So this leaves a lot of open room for miscommunication. Try and keep any feedback / constructive insight. I do want to tell you this. Instead of giving people constructive criticism, start looking at it as constructive insight. Start looking at, okay, I'm going to give this person insight. Constructive criticism is not a bad thing, guys. Like, we're always criticizing something. Like, it has a negative connotation to it. But if someone's coming to you and they're like, you want to give them feedback, instead of saying, let me give you some criticism, maybe say, hey, let me give you some insight. Can I give you some constructive insight? And ask permission. Okay. That's one thing I want to touch on this real quick. Before you start giving feedback, ask permission to give feedback. Hey, can I give you some feedback? Don't just jump in and start doing it, because people, if they're not in the position to do it, because sometimes as a leader or manager, like, you're responsible to give them feedback, but always ask permission first. Hey, can I give you some feedback on that? Can we work through this real quick? How you phrase that is all dependent on how you guys do this, whether it's homeowners, whether it's significant others, whatever it may be. This is a big deal. Everybody with me so far?